for joining us today. This is Kathy for Getting Chatty with Kathy. It's a beautiful day here in the Queen City. Yes, it's winter, but the sky's blue and I can't complain. So today we have a wonderful guest. She's been on the show before, but I really, really enjoyed everything you had to say last time. So I thought perfect timing to have you on the show right before Christmas, because I know a lot of us are going to be dealing with, extra stuff all over the house, and you're a pro at it. So today we have Jess Dunn on. She's from JC Realty. I said that weird, realty. She really knows how to get down to the basics when it comes to figuring out how to organize your house, and also minimalizing the extra stuff and the extra stress. So without me going into all of that in detail, I'm going to let you do that.
Oh, thanks for having me back.
Pleasure.
I the first time I was here, it was like, oh my God, it's the first time I'm on the radio, so I was nervous. But
did you hear yourself?
Did.
You listen?
Of course I listened. I posted it. I was like, this is a big deal. But thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
I do have a very different role at JC Realty. I am a declutter specialist, I guess. But also at JC Realty, I'm more of a client care manager, and almost another big piece of my role is making sure that our company as a culture are always giving back to the community.
Wow.
So in this time of year, this is a big, everybody, it's on top, everybody's top of mind is how can we give back to Regina? And this is kind of my wheelhouse. I've been doing it for years, and our brokerage has been doing it for years too. So.
But where did that come from? How did you all of a sudden think, hey, I got to give back?
Well, I'm from small town Saskatchewan. I lived in a little small town called Vibank.
Vibank! Well, I know some peeps from Vibank.
Hey, Vibankians out there. It's not even a town, it's a village. So when you grow up small town Saskatchewan, even in Regina, I still feel the same sentiment that if you don't do it, those opportunities get lost. So we just grew up in a town where everybody pitched in because you had to. There's nobody else doing it for you. There's nobody coming to save you. Nobody coming out to do these things for you. You had to do it as a community and always pull together. Even if there's families that were struggling, or kids that needed some extra help, or whoever's ball team needed a ball coach that year, or helping the senior center, whatever it was, you grew up in it, and then I guess it just ingrained in me. And I think I had some really good values growing up as a Vibankian, and my mom obviously was a huge volunteer and community member. So I think that just
so at home
it was it drilled into me. Not you have to do this. You just saw it. She just modeled it for me, and I've done it my whole entire life.
Volunteering definitely opens up a lot.
It does. Lots of things. It helped me get a scholarship. It helped me throughout school to build my resume. And also I think more intrinsically, it gave me a sense of purpose in life. And that's what really fills my soul and fills my cup, no matter what's going on in my life. This might sound a little selfish, but giving back to my community is what gives me breath.
I don't think it's too selfish. I think that's a good trait.
It's a good win-win, I guess. Yes. Right? It's a good win-win, yeah. But I feel it's not an extra to-do on my list. It's I look forward to those moments when I get to volunteer or donate money to a cause that I really am passionate about, or just spreading awareness. If anybody follows me on social media, you'll know I'll have 4 or 5 posts of what's happening in Regina and who needs help.
I love that you are on the pulse of it. And I think that JC's very lucky to have you working with them, because I think that you're the community.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So why don't you go into some of the nuts and bolts about how you guys made that happen, and what's your cause this year?
I feel everybody that works there, I don't know how this happened, but we all have the same culture. We all want to give back, and we all do it in different ways. For example, Kaylee was a board member for Dress for Success. Margarita is huge in the Greek community and is helping her church. The guys, Jason and Jim, are avid coaches throughout their entire kids' lives. So we all had that in us, and we just feel that if we're living and working in this community, we have a responsibility and a duty to give back where we can.
I love that.
So when we first started, we always had some big initiatives around Christmas, and the first thing that we had done is I just happened to stumble upon in my volunteer work a lady named MJ, who is very connected with North Central Family Center.
North Central Family Center. Okay.
Yes, that's our biggest like heartstrings pull. That organization is very near and dear to our hearts. And we first started out doing a toy drive, and it just exploded. We did it alongside with North Central Family Center, and also helping kids that were caught in between the foster system and not having a family yet. So like they're kind of getting placed.
And Santa doesn't know where they are.
Well, of course, yes. So like they got, when we first started, they were barely getting $10 a kid. So like, what do you get a kid for like $10? So it was like massive. It was a big deal, and it just grew and grew and grew. So that was the one initiative we've done. And then throughout the years, it's been like Carmichael Outreach, YWCA, Souls Harbor. There's just been a lot of other groups that we have the platform. And we have such amazing clients that are very similar to us that want to give back and don't know how, or are not really informed of what's really needed in our community. And we had the platform where we can reach out to them too. So like spreading the awareness was almost like a bonus. Like weren't expecting the amount of turnout of things that we were getting throughout the year. So this year we are focusing on the food bank and Souls Harbor. Very the food insecurity in our
crazy right
city
now.
Is crazy. It's like that all over Canada. But it's very alarming.
I watched the news, I think, was it a couple days ago, and they were saying that they've seen like an increase of 25% in this year. Like their population of people coming, 25% of them have never had to be there before.
Yes.
So they're now like so many more people don't have food security.
Yeah. And 40% of those people are kids. That's where like our hearts are like.
Yes. And are we one of the only countries in the world that don't offer lunch?
I would say now that I'm a part of the women's group, which I will touch base on later, is there has been groups like where Chili for Children has still been running since 1979. There is a group called Regina Food for Learning that is still in the community, but they're seeing a huge uptick of schools that are requiring kids or that need lunch for kids. So they're not getting through every single school yet.
Oh my goodness.
But the need is dire, I'd have to say.
I couldn't imagine being in class and not having breakfast or lunch and being able to think with your tummy growling.
That's the problem. Is like how do you regulate your body and your emotions when you're starving first and foremost, and then how do you learn?
And we're in Regina. We're surrounded by food.
Yes.
I saw some interesting things at the food bank. Somebody dropped off like a huge amount of peas. I saw on the news, like grain or whatever.
Lentils,
it was like lentils.
Yes,
and I was like,
saw that.
yes, like we should be doing that. Come on, farmers, help.
Help. Yeah, that's the thing is too, is like what I have experienced, we've given to the community fridges for years too. That like we could fundraise thousands and thousands of dollars and get there and it'd be gone in an instant. Like in a flash. And then that is such an eye opener too, that yes, the food bank it's meant to be a supplement. It's not meant to be your one and only way of getting food. And that's not the case right now. Like that is some of the times that's the only way people are getting food right now, because people have to choose between food and rent at the moment. And it's scary. It's very, very scary.
And I love that you take your daughter.
Yes. Yeah. We take our girls. The very first time I took them, it was a few Easters ago during COVID, and we didn't have an Easter supper because COVID. We couldn't get together.
Right.
I'm like, well, let's do this instead. We'll get outside and we'll go do this together. And I remember my oldest like thinking like, oh, this is the most amount of food we've ever had in my back of my truck before. And they were very, like I was trying to explain to them, like, this isn't going to be a very happy thing. Like you might see some things that are going to be a little bit hard for you to know, because they live in a bubble. Like,
totally.
We're white, we're privileged. Like this is like totally not in their wheelhouse, and they're little. Like she would have been 8 or 9 at this point. And when we rolled up, like people were digging and getting stuff out of our truck that's how dire of a need it was. And she's like, Mom, it's all gone. Like, it was all gone. And she was just in tears. And that's when we knew, like, every month we are going to focus on food waste in our house.
Yes.
And save up where we can to get food over to them, because that was like a huge eye opener for my whole family. So, and I did that with the group at JC Realty. Their eyes grew, and then all of our colleagues that were joining in with our little fundraiser for this last few Christmases, their eyes were open. So it's just like been a spreading of awareness more so than anything. But yeah, the food insecurity is crazy. I think I saw a stat that the average person spending over $1,200 more this year than they did last year. And last year was expensive.
Yeah.
So, and they're anticipating it to not go down in Saskatchewan. We're actually higher in food inflation still than the rest of the country, 9.3%, which is, I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a bit more? I know you had said you had some data to like share with us. I love data.
You like data.
I
you like the stats.
I do, and
okay.
because I think it gives me the opportunity to really like think about
Soak it in,
and I can see it in my head.
Yeah,
so, like,
I'm a very visual person too, and a lot of people are just kind of don't know how bad it is until you get informed and get into the nitty gritty. The Saskatchewan, what is it called now? The South Saskatchewan Community Foundation put out this amazing vital signs report, and it's probably the best report I've seen for stats, specifically for Regina. And it's amazing how they focused on 4 key things. Like, it was like affordability on housing, food insecurity, mental health, and community infrastructure. Those 4 things, how they're so intertwined. And it's such a complex thing. And so they did stats on every single key piece of those. And I thought they were very alarming, but it isn't surprising to me because I'm in it. But I'm sure when people read this, they're going to be
shocked.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm also a realtor, so I do have a lot of information about
dun,
housing.
dun.
Yes. So,
but this is good to know because
Yeah.
I keep on hearing on the news, oh, Regina's so cheap to live in. Regina's so cheap to live in. And I'm like, it doesn't feel cheap. Like, I have a huge mortgage. I have to pay expensive grocery bills. I have huge taxes. To me, it doesn't feel like that. So I worry about the rest of the world if we're affordable.
We are one of the most affordable places to live in the country. So if you're feeling it now, can you imagine living anywhere else right now?
I couldn't afford it.
I saw a stat that most people that are looking to rent in Vancouver can't even get a 1-bedroom with a 6-figure salary.
You're making $100,000 and you can't get a 1-bedroom apartment.
You can't rent.
That's insane. Like $100,000 is like a huge salary.
Yeah.
What if you had family?
I know, it's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So since 2022, the interest rate has gone up 22 times. So you're feeling it as a homeowner, right? So, but what does that mean? That means that it's causing more people not to even enter the home ownership journey because they can't afford to get into it. And then so that drives up the rental market. So there's more and more demand for the rental market. So then
it gets
so
expensive.
The rental prices are more expensive. So even if you're struggling to buy a house, you might even be having more trouble finding a place to rent. So that's happening throughout the whole country.
That's crazy. To spend money like that on rent seems like such a waste. And I understand, though, because the people that own the apartments and the condos
their
or whatever,
mortgage fees are going up. They have to go up. Like interest rate. Not only the interest rate is going up, the property taxes are going up, the property insurance is going up. So that that landlord needs to probably up their rent because they can't afford it either. This is not just because they're being greedy,
right?
But this
cost of living is going up,
right, and your wage hasn't caught up, right?
Not at all.
Yeah. So in those, there's another thing too that we need to kind of be aware of as well as, most people that bought a property 5 years ago had like rock bottom interest rates back then. Now it's their time to renew in 2023 and 2024 and 2025. So there's like 2.2 million mortgages that are about to get a shock.
That's us.
That a lot of people have never, there's a lot of people that have felt it already if they're in a variable rate, but if they're in a fixed, they have been living life pretty good and we don't even know it. most people's mortgage rates are going to, or their payments are going to be going up on average of 32% next year if they are in a fixed. So you're going to have some big decisions of whether are you going to blend and extend your mortgage? Are you going to have to sell? What's going to have to change in order that the average payment is going to go up 32%.
So if you were paying $2,000, you would be paying then at $2,700, yes, which is a huge change
every month or whatever your payment
and that's just going to interest.
So there you go. Be prepared if you're like, this is your warning to go check some things out, go mortgage hunting, find out your options because it's going to hit you before you know it.
So some of the things that I know that you live by: save money, food security. I mean, being like more aware of the food that you're eating and not wasting it. Mm-hmm. And that saves money. Like as a resourceful person, if you're watching rotting food going in your garbage, you're wasting a lot of money nowadays. Like you can't do that. Yeah. So how can we be better at it? Because I think you have some good tips.
I do have a lot of good tips on this because I went through it.
Right.
I was like one of those people that I didn't really care what I bought. Just whatever I needed threw in the
fridge,
in the cart, and went home and filled it. And it wasn't till my daughter saw me like throwing food straight from the fridge to the garbage can where I'm like, this needs to change. And that experience over at the fridges was also another key
Those are
factor.
very good things to see, though.
Yeah, but the average Canadian throws an astronomical amount of food away. So do grocery stores, so do restaurants. So we need to do a better job of making sure that we're not overbuying in the first place.
Definitely.
And making a plan for the food that you do have. So I've even put together a course called the Kitchen Crasher.
Okay.
That goes over like how you can save money, reduce food waste, and help you necessarily meal plan that actually makes sense for your family, and eliminates a lot of the decision fatigue, because that's the biggest piece is like, oh,
what do you want to do?
What do you want for supper again? Oh my God, like
you decide.
Yeah, just for love of God, pick something.
Chicken fingers and fries.
Right? No kidding. And so I was really like focused on like how my family eats. What are my kids' behaviors with food? Like, why am I buying all this expensive fruits and vegetables if they're not eating it in the first place?
Right.
What do I need to do to change that habit or fix my spending? Where am I shopping? And mostly it has a lot to do with like just paying attention to what is going in the garbage and like actually making a list of like what you are putting in the garbage can. So if you're going to clean out your fridge this weekend, before you throw it all in the garbage, write it all down and then put a price beside it.
That's a great idea.
Because that really makes you feel like, oh, it's not just, oh, well, it's just a little bit of lettuce here and there. Sometimes it's a lot of money. Freezer burnt meat. Yeah. When I go through people's kitchens, the amount of food we toss because it's bad is crazy. Like people have whole fridges in the basement that they don't even know they have
old food in it.
And it's like, like add up to hundreds of dollars. Like the one, one stands out to me, we threw out over $200 of food. And like,
what a waste.
What a waste. What a waste.
What a waste.
Yeah.
So challenging you guys out there, I'm going to try myself. I really will.
Yeah, that's a one good tip.
I want to take a picture of it. I'll send it to you, what I'm wasting. And I also am very much thinking that this would help with just the environmental factor too.
Of course.
Right? Like everything is plastic these days. So like wrapped, and I know we're getting rid of like some of it, but not all of it. But if we're being more aware... I guess that would help with that. Yeah,
that was another stage of the Kitchen Crashers. Like, okay, now how are you storing your food?
Oh,
like, what like that's another big piece.
So it doesn't go bad too quickly.
So it doesn't go bad too quickly. And what are you doing to make sure the food that you are wanting to eat gets eaten quicker? And when you overstuff your pantries, that you can't even see what's in there. A lot of that stuff goes stale and expires on you, and you can't even use it. You forget it's in there, right?
Totally.
A lot of people
old tacos are not good. Like they're gross.
All like putting your leftovers front row and center in your fridge, so that gets looked at first. Like it's very strategic and almost like a shop. I always say like almost make your fridge like you're going shopping at a grocery store. Make it enticing and pretty. Like when my kids are in there and they open the fridge, the first thing they see is clear containers of apples, oranges, all the things that are easy for them to grab, because that's all they can't.
Yeah.
For them to prep stuff, they're gonna go straight for the granola bar instead, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like the cheese sticks, all the things, the healthy stuff is right for front and center, and then the leftovers are in front with for the grown-ups to make sure that gets used.
We eat it.
Yes.
That's smart. And has it made a big change?
Massive. I saved, the first time I did this, I saved $5,200 in groceries alone, just the grocery side of things. So it's massive. It is incredible.
Okay. Very good advice.
So reverse grocery list. That's what I call writing down what you're throwing away.
I'm gonna steal that tip.
Because you're gonna start to see patterns. Like you're constantly throwing away your avocados, or constantly throwing away your spinach, or like
mushrooms.
Or I think the big realization for people is like we overcook. Like we're cooking for an army of 10 for some reason, when like my kids' portions are like half the size of what I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So then the leftovers, nobody wants it after day 3.
No.
So they just go to waste. So the biggest thing I think I did was start cooking less portions. That was a big one for us, because we're just not leftover people.
I like that. Yeah. Another thing that we did recently that I thought was nice, we were at an event and we had extra trays of food, like tons. Because sometimes when you're having an event, you don't know how much food.
Yeah.
So we took it to Souls Harbor. We were like, you guys can have this all fresh, beautiful food. We knew that the leftovers were just too much for us.
Yeah.
So can we do that in other ways? Like, do you know anything about that, or?
I would say, reaching out to Souls Harbor would be a great opportunity for sure. If things are packaged properly, take them to the fridges for sure. That's another one. But yeah, I would say like finding like an alternative even before you have an event is like, hey,
that's so smart.
Is there somewhere, just in case we have extras, do you have the capacity to store it for somebody's lunches tomorrow, or like whatever it is, like Carmichael Outreach, do you want these like
fruit trays,
making it ahead of time, like almost calling ahead of time. I don't know if we're gonna have extras, but if we do, will you take them?
That's
like,
a
absolutely,
really
we'll take
good
them.
suggestion.
So then you're like, you know exactly where you're going with it the next day.
So this is more about being more conscious and aware of what we're doing with the food too.
Exactly. Yeah, being very, very, very cautious.
And we don't. I think you're right. We grew up privileged. Like I've never once had to think about a meal in my life.
No, neither have I. Never.
And
never.
So. I do think what you're doing is really smart. I love that you're getting your community involved, because it is motivating and inspiring for somebody like me who has you on my thread, seeing you having these conversations about everything. I think that we've just kind of live in a zombie blur sometimes.
Oh, for
and
sure.
we just follow it. And then there's this person, this ray of sunshine that shines it on different topics that we don't really pay attention to. Yeah. And I really appreciate you doing that, because without you doing that, there's so many things that we just wouldn't even be talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I find that you and I actually had this conversation a few weeks ago, where it's like, even since COVID, I think a lot of people feel like it's just easier to throw your sweats and bunny on and just binge watch something on the couch
than going out
and engaging in your community in more impactful ways. So you and I have been starting going to more events and more fundraisers and things to get informed of what's happening. And I have taken on a community role over at 100 Women Who Care. And that was this group is like a really cool...
What is it?
It's a really cool thing that I've kind of came across in 2018, and now I'm a committee member. But it's basically a bunch of women get together, 100 of us. Then I think we're at 170 actually members right now.
Wow, 170?
170, and we're always looking for more. So, but our group is, we get together 4 times a year, very short and sweet, so very little time commitment. Us members nominate charities in our community that desperately need money. And 3 of them get randomly selected, and we hear their pitches, and somebody's going home with like $16,000.
Shush.
So huge amount of money that is going to these
4 times a year.
We do this 4 times a year. We've raised over $500,000 for our city in 8 years.
That's incredible.
Yes, it is huge. And
so how can we do this? How can someone like me join? And what do we do? Do we just give you money, or tell me more?
So it's we each donate $100 every quarter. So it's a $400 commitment. I know it may seem a little expensive, but I've donated that before.
Is it taxable?
That's the whole thing. These charities need to be able to give you a tax receipt too. So But the thing is about this group is like I've come from the nonprofit world. I know how much that money is so critically needed, and it's life changing.
Yeah.
Like it could be a matter of whether a program closes its doors or not. It could be, and just having like that breathing room to know like, oh, we just got a good influx of cash. Now it can go focus on the programming. Like that whole piece alone is just so heartwarming to see. And I get to know so many different charities. Like I thought I was pretty in the know of our communities. There's so many programs out there that are doing so much good in our city, and I don't even know they exist sometimes because they don't have the platform. But when they come to our meeting, it's like, holy cow, we just like spread the awareness to over 100 women, and then they're gonna go spread it to their spheres. So that piece is just so, it's magical, it's empowering.
Totally. It's the power of numbers too, like a whole group
the
of
whole
people.
group of us like wanting to give back. It's powerful.
I really think that is an incredible
it's a cool
group.
concept. Yeah. So it's 100womenwhocareregina.com.
Okay.
If you want to go check it out, they have like click the registration button and go to town. Our next meeting's in February, so you got some time.
February. You guys
26th.
got lots of time.
Yeah, lots of time.
Well, I'm sorry to say, but our time, like we could talk all day.
We could.
So I want to thank you again for coming
thanks.
on. I think that this Christmas, if we can be just a little more aware of everything that we're doing in the house, trying to reduce waste, be more conscious of our food, and just be aware of our community and those maybe that aren't having, maybe the best holiday season. I think that those are all good things that we can be aware of and work together on.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. Take care.